Who was the most audacious emigrant from Scotland to Canada? The character in today's story has to be a candidate. Where was he from? How did he emigrate? What escapades did he get up to? And how did things work out for him? If you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then click the subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen and ring the notification bell to be told when I upload new videos. In the meantime, let me tell you a story. Rory Mackay was 27. The tough, physically strong blacksmith was the third son of Alexander Mackay of Beaulieu. So maybe not quite the downtrodden, landless Highland tenant that often inhabits emigration stories. His elder brother Alexander had fought with the Fraser Highlanders in the French and Indian War, and Roderick had a bit of martial spirit about him too. Now, the Act of Union with England had brought higher taxes on malt and distilling and a determination to collect those taxes. The gaugers who sought out illicit stills were as popular as the proverbial fart in a spacesuit. And when the hot-tempered Roddy got a whiff of what was coming out of an astronaut in Beaulieu one day, it was like setting a match to it. Boom. Methane, awfully flammable. The story goes that when he heard about a local whisky seizure, he set out to liberate the amber nectar with the righteous indignation justified of any Highlander. That's why he found himself in the Inverness toll booth. Not ideal. After a while, being a gregarious chap, he got friendly with the guard, and since they were both stuck there at the same time with no wholesome diversions, he gave his jailer cash and sent him to buy some of the very tasty treat that had got him locked up in the first place. While you're at it, might as well get some beer as well. When the turnkey got back and walked into the cell with his arms full of grog, Rory slipped out behind him and promptly locked the cage. He never so much as glanced back at the toll booth. He collected his wife, his two daughters and his bachelor brother and headed for Loch Broom, where he joined the most famous of all Scottish emigrant ships, the Hector. Currently undergoing restoration work, its replica here sits in Pictou Harbour today, a celebration of the impact made by the wave of Scots who followed it here to Nova Scotia. If you look at a local telephone directory today, it bursts with McDougals, McGregors, McIntyres, Mackenzies, McKinnons, McLeods, McNeils, Monroes and more than I could list. Our next stop is the McCulloch Centre. Much of the story of Scottish emigrants to Pictou is told in there, and I'm going to take you there to show you one very special artefact. Because here is the key of the Inverness toll booth, brought here in 1773 by Rory Mackay, who found himself locked inside and by his wits and the turnkey's taste for whisky gained liberation for a new life in what we call Canada. Nowadays, Pictou has a harbour and houses and bars and a causeway that joins one side of the inlet to the other, where the three rivers feed into the Northumberland Strait. Here at Brown's Point is a commemoration of the first arrival. Now, it might not surprise you to hear that it wasn't quite the land of milk and honey advertised by the speculators. When you arrive in a Canadian autumn to be dropped without supplies or housing, with nothing but thick forest in front of you, you know that the brochure took a few liberties with the verite. And given that most of the passengers deposited here in Brown's Point had come from rocky hills of Assynt and Loch Broom, lumberjacks they were not. As the Hector sailed off, Some of our Highlanders, instead of staying in untamed woods, set off walking the 40 miles through the woods to the nearest settlement of Truro, hoping to sell their labour. Some did decide to do their best to make it through the winter here as best they could. You know that they didn't all survive. Now, the settlers' deal was that the Hector was to sail south to bring back supplies to get them through the winter before it continued back to Greenock. But as the outline of the Hector sailed off into the distance once again, back towards the familiar world left behind, the company agents declared that the Highlanders who hadn't gone to tame the woods allocated far from the harbour had broken their contract. They would get none of the food promised unless they paid for it. The question is, with what? Colin Douglas had watched his 2 younger children die of smallpox on the ocean journey. Would you let your 2 remaining children die of hunger when you knew the food that you'd been promised was in a storehouse nearby? Donald MacDonald's youngest had just become seriously ill and needed fed. These 2 and our fiery Rory Mackay had all come from Bewley, and together they set out to get what was rightfully theirs. They strode into the storehouse and demanded food. Now, the company agents were armed, but the Highlanders overpowered them, tied them up and hid their guns in the woods. They measured out the food that they needed, left a record of what they'd taken with an IOU, and they headed into the woods themselves, leaving Rory to untie the prisoner and tell them where to find their guns. There may be trouble ahead. The agents sent word to the British naval base 100 miles away on the other side of the island at Halifax. This was rebellion, and it had to be dealt with. Don't forget, it was little more than 20 years since Jacobite Highlanders left a trail of redcoat corpses as they marched south to Derby, threatening the British Crown. Older officers must have thought it was starting all over again across an ocean, and the Highlanders might be coming for them. A firm hand had to be shown. Action was required. Maybe get the militia at Truro to take it the way. Whether sympathetic to the republicanism stirring further south, affinity with the Scots Highlander, or more likely, disdain for the regular army officers at Halifax, the Scotch-Irish commander at Truro said, "I will do no such thing. I know the Highlanders, and if they are fairly treated, there will be no trouble." The matter was quietly dropped. Rory Mackay would not be returning to the Inverness toll booth. On the subject of Inverness, in September 2024, I'm taking an 11-day group tour with a maximum of 25 people to celebrate my 60th birthday. We'll visit Inverness and Edinburgh and St Andrews, Culloden and Clava Cairns, from Hadrian's Wall to the Isle of Skye and wonderful places in between. I'll do a live comedy show and it'll all end with my birthday ceilidh. Now, because of a pregnancy, one couple pulled out. I'm sure that's not how it's supposed to work. Blame the Catholic Church. Anyway, there's a place for one couple up for grabs. So, if you want to take it, then click the link top right or email alexis@scotlandhistorytours.co.uk. I'll see you there. As its name suggests, the East River is the most easterly of the 3 rivers that feed into the Northumberland Strait. It was here that Rory Mackay got involved in the North American Rebellion of 1776. You have to remember that potentially this could have been the 14th rebellious colony. There were people here on both sides of the argument, but Highlanders tended to be loyal to the Crown. In the summer of 1777, as Rory and his brother Donald were heading down the East River here to deliver barrel staves for export, a rowboat passed them heading up. They gave it no thought, but when they reached the harbour and got on the ship, they were confronted by some New Englanders with rifles. Rory felt a tap on the shoulder and was informed that he was now a prisoner. I think you know enough about Rory Mackay now to anticipate that he gave the rebel the back of his hand and... Hold on. There was now a musket pointing at his head. Now, it turns out that the rebels had tricked the ship's crew, taken over the ship and imprisoned the mate. The boat that they'd passed coming down the river was heading for Rory's own forge to plunder the workshop. The Mackay boys were locked in the hold, prisoners of rebellious privateers. So pleased were the rebels with their day's work that they broke open the ship's rum supply to celebrate. Down in the hold, Roderick suggested a plan to his brother. Rory would rush the stairs, knock out the half-sozzled sentry and throw him overboard, while Donald used an axe to hold the drunken pirates at bay. Now, Donald was much less fiery than his brother, and he thought this was a terrible idea. And so Rory tried to persuade their fellow prisoner, the ship's mate. The problem was, Rory spoke no English and the mate had no Gaelic. The next day, they were released to find that in their drunken state, the pirates had accidentally sunk the boat full of ironware from Rory's forge before they set off. When the Mackay boys raised the alarm, Colin Douglas, his food-stealing accomplice with whom he'd apparently threatened rebellion 4 years before, raced through the woods to alert the Royal Navy at Halifax. A British warship chased the pirates, who promptly abandoned the ship and headed for the woods. And one by one, they died of hunger. Rory decided that his skills were needed in the war effort, so he moved his wife and his 2 children to the big city of Halifax, where he put his blacksmith skills to work in the naval yard here, forging a huge chain to span Halifax's harbour and keep out those pesky privateers. For years, Halifax became Rory's home, but his sense of honour, self-worth and "dinna mess with me" never changed. One day, strolling near the citadel here, he heard a British officer insulting a woman. He wasna having it. He told the officer to shut his mouth, and the craven oaf's response was to draw his sword and slash our unarmed hero in the head. It was an outrage. Rory told the spineless snake that he was going to bandage the wound, but expected to see him in an hour from now on the common. An hour later, Rory arrived on the common wearing a makeshift turban and brandishing a stick. That's right, Rory Mackay took on the British officer with a stick. So skilled was he with that stick that he disarmed the officer and repaid him heartily for his cowardly attack. You can hear the shots in the background. Rory Mackay prospered in the naval yard, from blacksmith to foreman. He saw 8 families of kinfolk arrive from Beauly, including his eldest brother, who still suffered from the wounds received fighting for Wolfe at the Heights of Abraham in Quebec. By the time Rory arrived back in Pictou County after 20 years in Halifax, he had land, respect and a wide extended family. But he always bore the scars of that officer's cowardly attack. Roderick Mackay, the headstrong blacksmith who'd carried the key to Inverness jail so as to provide artefacts for a Nova Scotia museum, died in 1829, aged 1883 at his East River farm. His descendants would include a Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia and other celebrated folks amongst them. He lies here in a new Scotland that's now part of Canada. But you only have to look through the names in the local phone book to see the mark left by people like Roderick Mackay. I've made more videos about Scots in Canada. You'll like them. And one of them is coming up on screen now. Go on, click it. Support the channel by clicking top right to become a Patreon member or buy me a coffee in the description below. In the meantime, ha mi an dóchas gún bí lam alive. Cheerio and rasta.